President Trump just filed this insane new amicus brief to the Supreme Court, sort of in defense of TikTok. And I wanted to talk about it because, well, it's bizarre, and it's sort of good and it's sort of not good at the same time. All right, here we go. Here's the cover page right here. I'm all reversed here in the screen. And you can see it's the Supreme Court against TikTok. Supreme Court. This is Trump to TikTok. It's filed to Merrick Garland, who is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Now, the thing about this, and here's the preamble. We'll just skip all of that. Okay, so in the introduction, and this is such a repetitive memo. He just says the same thing over and over again. So there's only a few points that we really have to hit here. But just to briefly summarize, the Biden administration and basically both sides of Congress said that TikTok was a national security concern, and the Chinese government, through ByteDance, had the ability to spy on all Americans. And this was like a really big problem, and they thought the only solution was to shut down the entire platform. And I mean that's crazy, because Facebook is also spying on you. They just happen to be American. And the feeling was that because it was a foreign company, and particularly China, we had to shut it down. Well, Trump is very active on all platforms. And in this amicus brief right here, he's saying why the order, which is set to go into effect on January 20th, which is one day before Trump's takes office, here's why he's saying that decision needs to be stayed. So here's what it says. As the incoming chief executive, President Trump has a particularly powerful interest and in responsibility for those national security and foreign policy questions. And he is the right constitutional actor to resolve this dispute. So basically, what Trump is saying is that, hey, I want to meddle in the TikTok dispute because I'm going to be president, or Trump's going to be president, and he should be able to negotiate a good settlement to keep TikTok in order. And personally, I think having TikTok around is a good idea. But his point is that it's not because of national security concerns we need to obviate this. We need to skip the whole constitutional question and make this a deal-making opportunity. All right, that's his basic position here. He also says, and this is bizarre, President Trump is one of the most powerful and prolific influencers on social media in history. I mean, that might be true, but it really does seem like braggadocio for sure. He talks about how he has like 14 million followers here on TikTok. And by the way, I'm going to link to this down in the description so you can go read it yourself, because it's 25 pages and sort of fun reading. So here he talks about, like, in that previous page, he talks about how great a president he is. And then here he says, in light of all of the interest, most importantly, his overarching responsibility for the United States national security, he opposes banning TikTok at this juncture and seeks the ability to resolve these issues at hand through political means once he takes office. And then he quotes one of his tweets, one of his socials, whatever you do on Truth Social. On September 4th, 2024, he said, in all caps, "For all those that want to save TikTok in America, vote for Trump." And essentially what he's saying here is that people voted for him to get into office, and this was one of his campaign platform things, and therefore he deserves a chance to, weigh in on what happens with TikTok. Okay, good point taken. You want to be able to use your influence versus having it taken out. And here it says, and this was really interesting, when Congress voted to take TikTok out of American politics, they did it intentionally to make the deadline for that petition one day before the next president took office. So whether it was Trump or whether it was Harris, they were like, we want it out, which is why they set it on January 19th. Now that President Trump takes office on the 20th, and he is very angry about this because it stops him from wheeling and dealing with the Chinese government right here. So the 270-day deadline imposed by the act expires on January 19th, 2025, one day before President Trump will assume office as the 47th president of the United States. And now we get into like the summary section where he's repeating the stuff that he just said. Some of this stuff is really interesting, and I highlighted it beforehand. Trump urges the court to stay the statute's effective date to allow his incoming administration to pursue the negotiation of the resolution that could prevent the nationwide shutdown of TikTok. And then he says here that it's ultimately a First Amendment issue, which, I mean, it sort of is. Like I think it's like 170 million users are on TikTok. About half of America is on TikTok, and people are, making their livings on it. They're saying important things about their opinions about, a lot of cat videos and dances and stuff like that. But sometimes politics gets in there too. And he's saying this is a free speech issue. The thing is, what Congress was saying was a national security issue. So TikTok appealed this, and the appeal was rejected. And it was rejected because the classified national security problems with TikTok were so great that TikTok shouldn't be able to exist anymore. It's a toxic asset. The problem with the appeal process is that evidence, what the government actually said was wrong about TikTok, they did not disclose. It is not transparent. They did not tell the American people, other than spooky things are happening on TikTok. They didn't actually present any evidence. It was like, hey, trust us, bro. TikTok is bad. So he doesn't even go into the evidence of what that is. He had the opportunity to talk about the evidence because he's going to be the president. Instead, he's like, it's a free speech issue, which I think most Americans agree. Like, TikTok should be a free speech thing. And like the whole trust me, bro, from the government wasn't very convincing, to be honest. And I'm wondering how much of this is like pandering on his part. Like, how much of this is Trump's trying to be like, yeah, I want to get TikTok out so Truth Social and Twitter, X, and all the other platforms have actually more market share. It might generally benefit these other platforms to not have TikTok as a competitor. And he might be placing this amicus brief out there to look like the good guy when he really intends to see it die. That's like two steps ahead. I don't know if Trump is really thinking that or not. Okay, so all that stuff I scrolled through, he's just repeating the stuff that he said in his introduction. On page 15, and we're almost done with this document, he says national security concerns by ByteDance appear to be significant and pressing, which means that Trump has been briefed on what those national security concerns are, because the government never actually released the exact concerns with TikTok. We're just supposed to trust them. And again, he says here, and what he wants to be able to do is go in there and again negotiate and tell China that he's the big dog and he can make or break this deal, and maybe he's going to try to get concessions. He is definitely going to try to get concessions out of China for this. And the last thing I think I want to point out is he says that because this is an attack on free speech in America, which I do agree with, the way he backs that up is hilarious, because he only gives two examples. He's like, social media goes out there and they tell truth where the mainstream media doesn't always get it right. And he points out his evidence here is the Hunter Biden laptop case in 2020, where he says that Hunter Biden's laptop in the 2020 election was censored by the mainstream media, but social media got out the truth. Which, A, this is an older issue, and B, it's laughable. And the second thing he says is he talks about COVID and how COVID conspiracies thrived on social media because there was social media preserved free speech. Now, it's striking to me that those are the two cases that he points out, two very partisan issues. Instead of like, I don't know, standard free speech stuff, which is happening on social media, independent journalism and good work by people versus these like truly partisan issues that directly benefited his campaign. Okay. And that's his amicus brief. And an amicus brief is a letter to the court expressing the opinion of an expert, in this case, the most prominent social media dude ever, Trump. And we will see how this sways the court. It could be that the court just puts in a delaying tactic to give Trump a little bit of negotiating room, which I sort of see that as a very likely outcome. I would find it weird for the Supreme Court to directly go against Trump before he's in office, knowing that they've got another 4 years of him at least going forward. So I don't know, maybe this is good news for TikTok. I will say that the reasoning is as bizarre as Trump's presidency. So you heard it here, probably not first, but maybe you heard it here first, from Pokey Bear LLC in Denver, Colorado. This was my back channel. Thanks for being here.